is Musings podcast. I'm your host, Mungu Mildred, and I'm so happy that you've joined me on another Saturday for an amazing episode. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about English, the colonizer's language. And it's sort of a continuation of last week's episode, like foreigners, because I don't know, they have a connection because the foreigners that come into Kenya, all they speak is English. Well, if they're from, the US and stuff. But it isn't even about them mostly. It's about how we as Kenyans think that English is the most important language anyone can know. I don't know what or who told us that our mother tongues are not important. I don't know who told us that Swahili is, beneath English. I know in Kenya we have two national languages, that is Swahili, and we have English as well. And we have to learn these languages. But remember how we used to be taught how to speak English? Being given this disc that used to smell like a rotten bone, and you had to wear it around your neck because you spoke your mother tongue or you spoke in Swahili during a day that you're supposed to be speaking English in school. Do you remember those things? I don't know if while you were in school you experienced such a thing, but that's how I did. I think I've told this story before. The way I go to learn English is as a baby or as a kid rather. From what my grandmother tells me is that, well, I was living with, the woman who gave birth to me at some point. And when my grandmother came back to get me, I was only speaking Kamba. So I'm not sure if that's the whole story or if there was something else there. I don't know. But apparently the Kamba language is the first one that I spoke while I was a kid. Because I think the people that I was growing up around at the time were mostly Kambas. So when my grandmother took me and brought me to Nairobi, she had to beat the Kamba out of me because now where I was living, I had friends who would speak to me in Swahili and I would think they were insulting me, and so I would insult them in Kamba. And if you have ever had Kamba insults, you'll know it's an insult. Whether you want to admit it or not, the moment it comes out of their mouth, you'll know that this is an insult because it doesn't sound good. So I will insult them in Kamba and not slight insults. They'll be big, big words. If you've ever had how a person from the coast can insult you, that's what I was doing, but in Kamba. Because apparently the adults who were around me while I was growing up, that's all they ever did. Domestic violence was very, very prevalent back in the day. And people just never, it was seen as normal. And so people would insult each other even in front of kids and stuff like that. And I would be there and I had them. And so I would insult my friends in Kamba. And so they would report me and my grandmother would beat me up because of it. So she beat me until I forgot a lot of it. So I still understand some Kamba words. If you speak to me or around me, I can pick up on some words, but speaking it, I'm even afraid of, I think, just saying the words out loud because I feel like I'm going to be butchering the language, and it's a beautiful language, so I wouldn't want to do that. But then afterwards, while she was beating the camp out of me, my friends were teaching me Swahili. I've said this before, I'm not even I'm not I'm not fluent in them. And that's not because I didn't learn or anything like that. It's because of the way we were raised in Nairobi. The Swahili that we speak in Nairobi is very, very terrible. We speak what is called Swanglish. So I'll be speaking in Swahili and then I'll put a, English word in there or Sheng inside there or mother tongue inside there. It's crazy how we speak Swahili in Nairobi. That's why I'm saying I'm not proficient in it. It's not about I never learned it or I don't know. I'm those people who just learned English and never learned Swahili. No, I learned Swahili in school, at home. We speak it. I speak it all the time. But the thing is, I'm not proficient in it because of the way Nairobi people learn Swahili. And as for my mother tongue, I speak it, but sometimes I'm afraid to even say the words because I feel like I'm not saying the words properly. My grandmother, as much as I grew up around her, and she used to speak to me in Maragoli, I understand when she speaks, but sometimes she says something and I'm like, what does that mean? And she's nice enough to explain to me, but speaking back to her, I can form like an entire statement. I can talk back to her in Maragoli. I can say something and she can understand, but I always feel like a little bit shy about it because I feel like I'm not saying the words properly, and I'm not actually. There are words I put, it's like shrubbing in mother tongue. Like I'm speaking my mother tongue and I'm shrubbing that mother tongue. Like that's what happens with me while I'm speaking Maraguli. But she understands me and she never judges. Her sisters as well, and they never judge. As long as we understand each other, I'm okay. And so she taught me Maraguli. And it was for English. I think I've said this before. She had a cousin who used to work at this Dutch family's home in Westlands. And so my grandmother used to take me there as much as possible because they had these two little boys, Casper and Simon. And I remember Casper was my age mate. Simon was a little bit older than us, I think by 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. But Casper and I were age mates. Age mates. He was born in, I think, January or Feb, and I was born in April. So we were age mates. I remember fighting over his toys and saying it's mine. So the first word that I believe I said in English was it's mine. I'm sure that's not it. I'm sure I already knew how to say hi, hello, and stuff like that. But I remember vividly fighting for his toys and saying it's mine because he used to say it. He will take his toys back and say, it's mine, it's mine. And I will do the same, fighting over his toys and saying that they are mine. So I'll also be like, it's mine, it's mine. And of course, it wasn't mine. But hey, I reconnected with him a couple of years ago on Facebook and I told him about the story and he just laughed because he didn't remember that much about that, but because it impacted me more than it did him. So I remember. And so I started speaking it. As I said before in another episode, I got an A minus. I have to say that, not A minor. Like in that other video, A minus in English in primary school. And so my pre-uni teacher was very, very happy about it, Mrs. Kereka. And I was very proud of myself and of her because she did an amazing job. She taught me and she stuck by me and everything until I got it. So that's how I got to learn English. And apart from that, of course, as I grew up, you get to that point where you have to speak in English in school. And if you do not, you are given a disc and it was a smelly bone or this card that was written like I'm stupid, I can't speak English or something like that. Like schools used to traumatize us so that you can learn the colonizers' language, and it's just crazy. All those things they used to do. Instead of teaching us mother tongue or instead of teaching us like enforcing Swahili properly. But we were taught this language and we were embarrassed so that we can be able to learn it and speak it. And now as an adult, I look back and I'm like, yes, I understand. I learned it. And because of that, if I travel out of this country, if I meet people around the country, I can speak to them in English as well. I get it. Like it has put me in a better position to interact with people from all over the world. Well, most of the world, because there's some countries where they have said, I'm not going to learn a single word of English because it's not my tongue and I'm not going to do that. So, but at least you'll find a place where, especially where the tourists usually go, somebody will understand you, they'll help you out. So it's good. For that, by the way, it's amazing. But I have a problem with it where Kenya and Tanzania starts fighting, and then you go to the comment section and you find like a certain Kenyan has written there, oh, I don't know, understand what you're saying. Can you please speak to me in English so that I can understand? Because to them, English is superior to Swahili. And I've just never understood. Like, I don't get most of what Tanzania say. And I won't even lie. And I do not support a lot of their nonsense, by the way. But when it comes to this particular thing, I'm on Tanzania's side. Because we have taken the colonizers' language and made it make us feel like we are superior to the other people in East Africa. Like Rwanda speaks French. That's the colonizers' language. Congo does the same. Uganda, they speak theirs, they speak a little bit of Swahili, they kill it. Like, they butcher Swahili, but they try. But their national language is English. And in Kenya, we try. And I think in East Africa, we speak English the best. But still, that should not make us feel like we're superior than the other East African countries because we can speak English better than they do. As much as Tanzania are terrible at it, it's not everybody in Tanzania, one, and it's not everybody in Tanzania who is interested in learning English as well because they're okay with speaking in Swahili. I remember a while back, I think it was last year, I was online and my algorithm was showing me, I don't know, people who come to visit Kenya and East Africa. And I found this video of this person who had he had come to Kenya and also gone to Tanzania, and he was comparing Dar es Salaam and Nairobi. And he was like, in Dar es Salaam, nobody speaks to you in English. Nobody seems to understand the English. Like, you want to pay for something and they can't even communicate with them. And I was like, you feel entitled so much that you want these people who are in their country free to speak however they want in their country, to learn your language as the person who's come into their country. You are the foreigner in their home and you want them to learn your language. Do you know how narcissistic that is? Because if I want to go and travel to France, if I'm planning to go and stay there for like a month or 2 months or 3 months, I have to learn French or at least the basics. If I want to go to Spain, I have to learn Spanish. If I want to go to Brazil, I have to learn Portuguese. And when I go there and I try to speak in English to those people and they do not understand, they will just look at me and walk away. Maybe they'll try and get somebody who will understand me, who will understand, but for the most part, they'll just walk away. I've heard of horrific stories in France where somebody went and got into a taxi, tried to speak in English, and the taxi driver was just like, "Get out. I don't understand you, get out of my car." And they refused to speak to you in English totally. I've had horror stories. Because these people, they love their languages so much that you as a foreigner, you're coming to disturb them. You want me to learn English, so what? Why didn't you learn French when you knew you're coming to France? Why didn't you learn Portuguese when you knew that you're coming to Brazil? Why didn't you learn a little bit of, Spanish, or there's another language that they speak there while you're coming to Spain? Same thing, you go to the Philippines, you have to learn a little bit of Tagalog. So I know most people understand English, but I'm saying you have to learn a little bit. Just learn how to say hi, not just this thing of jambo, barigani, or hakuna matata, because that's all white people learn when they're coming to our countries. But when they come, they expect us to learn their language and talk to them in their language. You've heard of stories where people speak their mother tongue while they're in the US and some random Karen walks by and goes like, "Can you please speak in English? This is America. You have to learn to speak in English." And you're like, do you have to understand what I'm saying? I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to my family. I'm talking to my friends. Why do I have to speak a language that you understand? And that is you just talking to your people. But here you're coming to East Africa, you're going to Dar es Salaam, and you expect that the server in Dar es Salaam understands English because you couldn't be bothered to learn Swahili so that you can meet them at least halfway. Learn how to borrow water. That's what I say. Like, just learn how to borrow water. Ask for water. Just learn that. Learn how to ask for directions. Learn the numbers, learn the days, learn the months. So that at least if you're trying to tell somebody that I arrived here on this and this day, you can be able to say, "I arrived on this day, date, blah, 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 blah." If you're trying to borrow water, because that is the most important thing, you could be dying. Just learn to say, "Please help me with some water." Learn how to say your name. Learn how to say their money, like numbers, as I said. Because they say, they see you as a mzungu, and then you start asking for the price and they tell you whatever. And you're like, but that's not what I saw the other people paying. I'm like, yeah, you should have learned Swahili so that they don't do that to you. But it's just crazy. Like, I know I'm just musing and I'm talking all over, I'm just all over the place. But the thing is, foreigners do that all the time. They come to Africa and they expect us to learn their language, to just know English. And them, they don't have to learn our language. You know, you go to India, you'll have to learn Hindu. Gujarati or whatever, you have to learn something so that you can be able to talk to those people. But foreigners coming into Kenya, they think they don't have to learn any Swahili. And Kenyans who don't help. Because in Kenya, fine, most of us speak English. But then as I said, most of us feel superior because we learn English, because we can talk in English, because most of us are fluent in English. You feel like you are so much better than Tanzanians who can't. And I'm like, who told you that? When are we going to remove this colonial mindset that the white people and their tongue are more important than the rest of us? Because if we do not remove that from our heads, then we'll never move on. It's the same way people are defending Bill Gates with his chaotic foundation and every disastrous thing he wants to bring into Africa because he's a white man and they think that all his innovations are good. They don't know why are we vaccinating our cows. We have never vaccinated our cows since I was a kid. I've never had a vaccination for cows. Like, I know they go to the cow dip and stuff like that. If they're sick, a vet is called and stuff like that. But vaccines, But suddenly this man, he wants to be the savior of Africa by introducing vaccines for cows. And why? For what purpose? But it's that stupid mindset that the white man is more important than us, than the black man. And it's like we believe it in our blood. We feel, like they're superior than to us. And because of that, whatever they innovate, we want to be part of. Whatever they say, we want to be part of. And we want to support blindly, I'll say. Sometimes, can we just sit and think for ourselves and understand that, yeah, English is just a language. It's a language the same way Maragoli is, the same way Kamba, Kikuyu, Kalenjin, Maasai. It's just a language. Africans, sorry to say this, but we're even superior. Like, I speak Maragoli, I speak Swahili, I speak English, I speak a little bit of Spanish, I speak a little bit of Kikuyu, and as I said, Kamba. How many languages are those? Most white people only speak one, and that's just English. And yet you think that they are superior to you because of their language, because of the color of their skin, because of the texture of their hair. And because of that, you look at a Tanzanian who cannot utter a word of English, or they fumble their way through it. And you're like, ha 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 ha, you know what? You are stupid because you do not know English. I'm like, most of these people who do that are supporters of football. You're a football supporter and you usually sit there after the game while they're interviewing those players. Somebody from Brazil will be speaking Portuguese because they do not know English. Not a word. Maybe they know how to say hi. And they're not comfortable. Maybe they know a couple of more words, but they're not comfortable in speaking it. So they will not be interviewed in English. They will not give the interview in English. Somebody will be translating for them and to them. And you guys, you will appreciate them because why? He's a white person and they're speaking Portuguese, which is a more superior language than my mother tongue, than Swahili. Malema said something very nice. He's South African. He's the leader of the what party? Okay, I won't go into that. But Malema said that he thinks we should make Swahili the national language in Africa. And it's very important. I remember even after seeing that video, some South Africans were like, why do we have to do Swahili? Why can't we do Zulu and stuff like that? And it was like, because Swahili is spoken by the whole of East Africa. And like more people speak Swahili than any other language. Zulu is only spoken in South Africa or Southern Africa, I should say. But Swahili is spoken by so many people. So we should make that the national language of Africa. And I agree with him. But even in the comments, some Kenyans were like, wah, 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 wah. And like, we only claim Swahili when we see like a celebrity has come here and they're trying to speak it, and then they are like, oh yeah, they were in Kenya. Like I saw this guy, Jericho Rosales, he's Filipina, he's an actor. He acted that movie, what was it called? He was Angelo in the movie. The Promise. From back in the day, 90 something. And he was in Tanzania. He put up a photo and somebody put it up on their social and they said Angelo was in Kenya. He wasn't in Kenya. And people in the comment section were arguing about how he was in Kenya. This guy was in Tanzania. We only claim Swahili when it suits us. When it doesn't, you hear somebody like Diamond saying he's 31st years old and you laugh and you think he's stupid. I laughed too because it was funny, but I never found him to be stupid. The only thing I do not agree with Tanzanians is that they will, like, today they might not speak a single word of English. Within a week, they're speaking English, but with an American accent. And I'm like, where did you learn that accent from? Where is your African accent? Where did it go? Because just last week, you couldn't utter a word of English. Or if you did, you could only say hi. But today you can speak in an American accent. Where is that? Why is that? And Diamond does that, and I look at him and I'm like, why are you speaking with that accent? Why are you saying words like that? Is that how he's being taught? Is that how he learned it? Or what is happening exactly? But it's just funny. Like, anyway, let him say the things that, as long as you understand him, I don't see where the problem is. He's not stupid before it. I remember watching Modern Family a month ago, and Sofia Vergara stars in it, and she has a very strong Spanish accent. In the beginning, it was very, very thick, but through the seasons, because it had 11 seasons, so through that entire time, you could hear the change. The change. I remember getting to like season 8 or 9, and I was like, it doesn't slap the same way when she talks. It doesn't feel the same way. So I was watching SNL, and Bad Bunny was there because he's going to be doing the Super Bowl halftime show in, is it 4 months, if I'm not mistaken. And the way he speaks English, he's Puerto Rican. I hope that's how you say it. Puerto Rico, whatever that. He's Puerto Rican. And the way he speaks English is how I imagine like somebody who's starting to learn English will be speaking. But Tanzanian surprised me because you can hear the way he's very careful. He speaks slowly. Like he says a word and then another word and then another word. And you are like, is that how he speaks? But then he switches to Spanish and is fast. So that's when I realized, oh yeah, he's very careful to say the words that he needs to say, and he needs to say them carefully. It's like he's translating them in his mind before he says it. It's adorable the way he talks in English. Like it's cute, and he's cute. So, but yeah. So if you're starting to learn English, you should be speaking the way Bad Bunny speaks English right now, and that's how Sofia Vergara was speaking it in Modern Family at the beginning. But then she changes because the more she lived, with this family in America, the more she learned how to speak like them. But yeah, you could still hear her accent here and there. But by the time the show was ending in season 11, I was like, I don't like the way she's speaking. I love the way she spoke before. So I'm thinking Bad Bunny at some point he'll come to learn properly, and then he won't sound the same. But then people will hear him talk and they'll not call him stupid. because of the way he's speaking. Well, MAGA people will be like, yeah, he should learn English, how to speak English properly. But then, like I'm saying, just saying, like a Kenyan who listens to him talk, they want to be like, ha ha, listen to him talking. He can't speak it properly or faster, blah, blah, blah. They'll be like, oh, he's trying. But then they'll hear a Tanzanian saying that he's 31st years old and they will laugh at him or her. They will hear Tanzanian trying to talk and stammering through and they laugh at them. So is it something that we just have in our minds or what is it? Shouldn't we get rid of that colonized brain or mindset? Because it's stupid, honestly. Not knowing how to speak English does not make you stupid. English is just a language like any other. And that person, I remember Sofia Vergara said something very important in the series. She said, like, you should know that I'm very, very smart in Spanish. The same way, Tanzanians, most of them have gone to school and everything, they're very, very smart in Swahili. This is somebody who could have a bachelor's in something, and you, who'd never even finished class 4 or even primary school, you are there insulting them because you believe that you, with your two English, you are more important than them because they can't speak it. It's just crazy. I believe it's just crazy. Can we do better as Kenyans? Can we understand that English is just a language? English is the colonizer's language. We learnt it. The same way the Mexicans said, I don't know how many other people learned Spanish. The same way, the Filipinos took some few words from Spanish because they were colonized by them. The same way Rwanda and Congo speak French because they were colonized by the French. Like these languages, the colonizers' languages, we should be prideful about our own languages. We should be very, very proud of Swahili. Be very, very proud of your mother tongue. And if you hear somebody speaking that, especially in this day and age, a child who was born, you hear them just the other day, you hear them speaking fluently in their mother tongue, that is who you should congratulate. Because most of us do not know our mother tongues. If I have a kid, if God blesses me with a kid, I've always thought this, that if God ever blesses me with a kid, I'll honestly want to have house help or a house manager rather, who is fluent in Maragoli. It doesn't matter what tribe my husband is, I would want my house girl to be fluent in Maragoli. Like from the village, Maragoli kabisa. So that she can be able to talk to the kid in Maragoli and the kid can grow up knowing. Because I'm afraid we're going to get to a point whereby none of these Gen Zs will know their mother tongue. Gen Alphas will not know. Because we do intermarriages nowadays more than ever. So you'll find that a dad is, Luya, the mom is Kamba, the mom is, I don't know, Luo, the dad is Masai. We have intermarried so much that our tribes are being lost. And at some point they'll be non-existent. And I'm afraid for the future because those kids are going to believe that English is much important than anything else. I heard of a story of a woman, she's Kikuyu, she left Kenya a couple of years ago and her daughters were young. They were 2 and the other one was I think 5 or something. And they left Kenya and went to the UK. The moment they arrived there, this lady told her children never to speak Swahili. Like ever again. She only wanted them to speak in English. And they had to learn the accent. So they speak like with the British accent, what and stuff like that. And they couldn't learn their mother tongue or Swahili. So they come back to Kenya after they're adults and they cannot relate to any of their cousins, any of their aunts, any of the other relatives. And they're like, what were you thinking? Because she felt like Swahili would pull them down or something like that. It wasn't like a situation where if they spoke Swahili, they were going to be beaten or, mistreated or anything like that. No. She was just like, no. We need to speak English because it's better than Swahili. I don't want you to learn Swahili at all. So they had to come in Kenya. They had to come to Kenya and learn Swahili as adults and learn Kikuyu as adults, which is crazy trying to learn a language as an adult. It's crazy. But that's what they had to do. And they speak now with an accent. They speak Swahili with an accent. And you look at them and they look exactly like you, and you feel like they might be playing with your mind. Nikawa na ringa. And it's not that. It's because they were never taught. I remember a former boss had a kid, and this kid was going to a private school, like, those group of schools type of school. And this kid comes to the office and I'm like, you don't speak any Swahili? She's like, no, I don't speak Swahili. I'm like, why? You were born in Kenya. You are a Kenyan. She goes like, yeah, you were raised by nannies who were Kenyan. Yes. Don't they speak to you in Swahili? And she's like, they do sometimes. And you never picked up on anything? So like, in school you never did Swahili? And she went like, no. I was like, this Kenya is full of jokers. The way mathematics is a mandatory in schools, I believe that Swahili should be mandatory in Kenyan schools. I believe that Swahili should be mandatory. Because how are you not learning the language of the country that you are born in? Because you believe that you're going to be interacting with these people who speak English for the rest of your life. And she wanted to be a doctor. So I'm like, you are going to be a doctor. You'll be interacting with Kenyan patients. And you'll be speaking to them in? Because you understand, not every Kenyan patient that will come to you will be speaking in English or will be able to understand English. You are raised in Kenya. You are a Kenyan and you don't speak a single word of Swahili. She's like, no, I can say hi, I can say sasa, I can say jambo, I can say, I'm like, that's a foreigner's thing. You can't be born in Kenya, raised in Kenya, and you can't speak Swahili. That's crazy to me. I don't know. I can talk about this for many, many hours because it just, I don't know. And I know, by the way, I know it's bizarre that I'm talking like this about a language that I'm speaking in that same language. I should have done this episode in Swahili, but as I said, I'm not so fluent in it. Aki ningejichanganyisha tu hapa mngeshanga. Because the Swahili you speak in Nairobi is terrible. But yeah, I just wanted to speak like this so that everybody can understand. But I know, I understand the irony in what I'm doing and in what I'm saying. But I just feel like we should do better as a country. We should be proud of our heritage the way Tanzanians are proud of theirs. And only in doing so will we be able to move forward honestly, properly, that is. Because we behave badly. We behave as if we are the bosses of Africa, like Kenya is the big shot in Africa. But then sometimes the things we say to each other, things we say to other African countries, I'm like, yo, punguzeni hiyo kitu mnavuta nani. English is not all that. If anything, we should be more proud of Swahili than any other language. Because it brings us together. Honestly, it does. It makes us East Africans. But every time I read the comment of a Kenyan telling a Tanzanian, oh, repeat that sentence in English because I did not understand your Swahili. Or, oh, maybe I should say it in Swahili so that Tanzanians can understand us because they can't understand English. I'm like, you are the stupid one in this situation. What makes you think you're superior to them? But yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. I think I've passed my to you. Like, what I wanted to say, I believe I've put it out there and hope it makes sense to you because it's just sad that we value the white man more than we value our own. It's just crazy. It's just stupid. It's just silly. It's just colonized mentality. And I honestly believe that we should move forward from that. Okay? So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Go to this comment section down below. Tell me if you agree with me or if you do not. I know this can cause a lot of, tension. People think whatever they want to think. It's okay. You have your own opinion. I have mine. As I said, this is Mimi's Musings podcast. These are my musings. This is what I think. So you don't have to agree with me. But if you have to correct me in kind. Do not insult. Do not do any of those crazy things. But yeah, that's just me. Comment in the comment section below. Tell me if you agree with me or if you do not. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so that whenever I upload something new, you're going to be amongst the first people to come and watch. Okay? Bye-bye now.